So today on Founders 15, we've got Jen Fry from Coordle app. As always, I'm going to get her to introduce herself. So Jen, tell us about you and Coordle.
Yeah, Mike, thank you for having me on 15 Minutes on the Mic with Mike, and I've renamed your podcast. And so my name is Dr. Jen Fry. I come to this world through college athletics. I was a college volleyball coach for about 15 years, decided to leave to become a professional speaker. At that point, a friend of mine told me that since I have 2 masters, I have to get a PhD now. So I decided to go to college and get a PhD. That's why I'm the doctor in here, but not a medical doctor, so I can't save your life. And I'm a trained sports geographer. So I look at race, place, and space in relation to Black athletes. And what was the impetus of Coordle was I thought about this back when I was a coach, but what really hit me was my college graduation. When I'm trying to graduate with my PhD, there's so many moving parts, and everyone's asking me, what's the hotel? Who's coming in? Where are we going to go eat? All these things. And it was starting to frustrate me. So I said, people aren't solving this issue of having all your information in a group movement in one place. So we decided to say, why not solve it? Why not us? And so we kind of decided to jump off that cliff.
Oh, okay. And so like what's happened since you jumped off that cliff? Like what's the journey been like over the last, how long since you started?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that when I did this, I was super naive, which I'm glad about. I thought I was kind of jumping, the Olympics are coming up. So I thought I was jumping off the 3-meter springboard, and I was really doing one of those 30-meter jumps off a cliff. And I didn't realize it, and I'm so glad I didn't. And so I say that because I thought I was just solving a problem of friends and family traveling, not realizing that there's a whole bigger problem within business to business. And so when I'm on that journey of any time, I try and take feedback and listen to it and do my research. And so I literally had someone say, you should look at B2B instead of B2C because B2B is going to be scalable. And I think a lot of founders come into this journey wanting to solve their problem, which is a business to consumer problem, not even thinking about the bigger scalable entity, which is business to business. And I didn't. And so when someone said that, I was like, let me do some research. And I realized there is a way bigger business in business to business that's scalable, repeatable business. Usually people travel, they go maybe 1 to 2 times a year. Business is always traveling. And so the journey has been just literally jumping off a cliff and just screaming the entire time and hitting the water and being like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But knowing that I'm gonna have to keep jumping off 30-meter, 40-meter, 50-meter cliffs if I want to keep getting better.
Great. So you hit the water now. So who's the ideal customer for you?
I feel like it's almost like Groundhog's Day because unfortunately you'll keep hitting the water. You hit the water once, you fall and you're like, oh, that was good. And then actually you're in a rushing stream and then you hit another cliff and you're like, oh, crap, it's another drop. And so you never just get to tread water for a few seconds. And I say that because like your ideal customer who you think is at the beginning drastically will change. And so what I thought was just friends and family. And then when someone told me business to business, you now have to think of a business client. And the business client also has small ideal clients within the business client. It's like, what are those like Russian doll things that you keep cracking it open and you keep finding smaller and smaller dolls? Yeah. That's literally what it's like because you're like, okay, my business, like for us, our clients, our ideal clients are youth sports and college sports. And those are who are ideal. And I say both of those because I was a coach for 17 years. I'm really well known. I'm a professional speaker in that. I'm really well known. So I have these two entities because in club volleyball and college volleyball, they're all intermingled. You might be coaching somebody's kid, but you played for their dad. Like, everyone in some way.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have 2 different clients. But I mean, you have to keep figuring out if y'all don't be doing your interviews, don't have a product. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now. Some of y'all be having products and don't do an interview and then wonder why it fails. You have to interview so many people and you have to be really good at asking questions and not, this ain't the witness stand. You're not leading them to get a conviction, right? You got to ask questions to get the information. And I say that because when I started, I thought I needed like the Christian Vuitton, Louis Vuitton shoe, right? Like with all the horn, bells, whistles, and all I needed was a strong flip flop. And many times we miss out on the really good opportunity of the strong flip flop and spend so much money on features that you just don't need because you think they're going to be sexy. Yes, it will be sexy, but it ain't going to make you money. And if it ain't making money, as my friend Ty says, all it is you have an expensive hobby.
So like you mentioned college sports and youth sports. there's certain people who are going to be watching this outside of the US who are going to be trying to wrap their head around how this is a business, how this is a startup for you. And then you just mentioned the flip-flop. So I guess at this B2B level, working with those kind of ideal clients, what is the flip-flop? Like, what does that look like for the clients?
Yeah, I mean, for our clients, what we've seen in the research is that when they're moving groups, so we think about if you are a business overseas somewhere from the US and you're like, well, we take people to offsite retreats. How can this help us? And the way I would say we can help you is a few things. A, most likely you've booked everyone's flight, you booked the hotel, you have this gorgeous PDF that you've made with pictures and all that information. But unfortunately, once you land, it all goes to crap. That is a static document with moving parts.
Right.
And what tends to happen is that the static document just keeps getting forward, right? Another email, hey y'all, we made a change, check this email. And now you have 15 emails you're trying to look through and people are getting frustrated and it just goes down now to text messages. Mike, just tell me where I have to go. Mike, I can't find the email. Mike, hey, do you remember what the name of the hotel is? Mike, when does Jen fly in? And it just becomes just text message, text message. And so for us, we're trying on the host side, so the person who's managing everything, we're trying to make your life so much simpler that you have one location for real-time information. You have a website, you can import all the information, and then you have the app. And the app, everyone is one center of truth. So there's no calendar invites, text messages, PDFs, Google Sheets. You have one center of truth that is always in real time. And so for the participants, that gives ease. It gives trust. It gives you comfortability because they know they don't have to be frustrated trying to search through 5 different emails 5 minutes before they're supposed to be somewhere because they just can't find the new updated one. And so for us, we don't say group travel, we say group movement because group movement is it's a bigger entity. People think of group travel as going for, a family vacation, going to a golf trip, a bachelorette. What y'all call it? Stag party? Isn't that like a UK?
Stag or hen party if it's the
stagger hen,
stagger
right?
hen.
We're going to give you some UK stuff, some stagger hen parties. And the reality is our goal is to control every aspect of your group movement. So you have your bachelorette hen party, you have your golf trip with your buddies, you have your business retreat. Everything is in one location and one center of truth so that you can go and be with your families and not stress of where's that one document because I'm so unsure of where I'm supposed to be tomorrow.
So if I am setting up a bachelor party and I'm not, college or youth sports, are there any kind of features that are not going to be of use to me, or am I going to be paying for anything that I'm just like, hey, listen, I don't need this stuff? Like, how usable is that across industries and individuals, I guess?
I think that's a great question. And that kind of goes back to, I think one of the biggest conundrums founders have. So right now we're B2B and we're going to look in the future to have B2C for that bachelor or bachelorette party. And I think that's the funniest thing you have to go through because as a founder, you have to be willing to let go of one thing to focus on the other. Yeah. So it would be really easy for me to be like, well, I'll just do B2C and then B2B and B2C to B2B, all that versus saying, okay, if we're focusing on B2B right now, that's where we're going to focus because we have to code in payments, we have to code in levers, we have to code all of that stuff in. And if you're trying to always have your hands in every pot, you're not going to be able to focus on the one pot. And that's what we see as a professional speaker. Like people come and ask me, well, how do I become a professional speaker? And I'll say, well, what's your niche? And they'll be like, well, it's leadership. And they'll do this really big umbrella. And I'm like, what's your niche? Everyone is talking leadership. Everyone's talking organizational culture. Hone in on the one thing, be an expert in that. Once you're an expert, people will ask you to do different things. I think that's the same thing when we're talking about startups. Like, what's the space you'll be the expert in? And then you can start researching and seeing other spaces that you can go into. So for us, the reason why we also like youth sports is that if you think about a youth soccer game, you have the club director who runs the club. Then you're going to have the coaches and most likely a team parent who manages all the details. Then you have all the athletes. So on a youth soccer team, say you have 20 athletes, and then every athlete is going to have some type of caretakers, parents, friends, families. So think of like the family tree of that diagram. We have the club director, that's one. We have at least 2 or 3 coaches and a team parent. That's right there. That's what, 5. And then we have now the athletes. That's now going to be 25. And then each athlete has a parent, a friend, a family, something like that. So now we're at 40 people. And that's how we're going to try and go into the B2C market is use that family tree because every team is going to have a CEO on there, a chief technology officer, someone who Coordle will get in their hands and they'll be like, how do we bring this to our office? How do we bring this to our department because it's so good? And that's how we're going to enter the B2C market, but we can't do it now because I have to stay steady on the B2B.
Yeah, and like you say, you've been through those changes, you've hit the water
Mm-hmm.
a few times, and that's the path that you're on right now. And so we work with a lot of startups at Forefront, and I think one of the other areas of kind of like dazzle, the kind of distraction moments, is not just finding that key sort of area, but also globally. Suddenly, maybe you're focusing on the US, and suddenly you've got a client in India or in Dubai who's really interested. What do you do at that point? Do you have product market fit? Are you able to kind of meet those markets? So today, at this stage right now, like what is your ability to work with kind of college and youth sports or B2B outside of the US?
I think that's a great question, Mike. And I think I will actually kind of, I don't want to say a big pivot, but I will move this to working with you. Working with you has been phenomenal in the fact that you allowed me to help me get my pitch really strong to be able to push and understand different markets and talk to them. Because what people don't seem to realize is that when you're pitching, you have to understand who you're talking to and what you're talking about in a different way. And so I'm a professional speaker. I've been doing this for years. But your company's help with my pitch really helped me understand that when I'm going to these different markets, how do I talk about this hero's journey so that they understand it?
Yeah.
Because you only get such a minute time. You get what 1, 3, or 5 minutes on stage. You have to have this hero's journey that brings them in no matter where they're at and solves their problem. Because the problem is going to feel differently for different people.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that when I'm selling this problem to youth and college sports, it's going to have to feel differently than it would if I'm going to talk to someone in Dubai, right? Or in the UK. I have to figure out how to make sure I'm doing that, solving that problem. And I would say your company was super helpful with the pitch practice and helping me understand that hero's journey and how I can make sure I'm showing the hero's journey to different people.
Okay. So you're able to meet their needs, kind of figure out what those specific problems are, and then make sure that Coordle fits those needs.
Yeah.
So your ability to be global has a flexibility within it. If somebody watching this video in the UK wants to use Coordle app, they can find it and they can download it.
Absolutely. Well, no, they can't. So what it is that you have to go online to sign up and you can get 15 free days. But the reason why we purposely did not have sign up online is I was super naive and I didn't realize that Apple charges so much money when you pay for apps. It's
Yeah.
like 30%, Apple and Google. And so when we were starting out, if we're charging, we did not want to have to start going through that because sometimes we'll have to give refunds. Like it just is what it is. And we didn't want to have to be paying customers, right? And so you just like Spotify or Netflix, you have to sign up online. And then once you've signed up online and fill out your profile, you can download and you can do everything from the app then. But you have to start up online with sign up. And it's super easy. Our goal is that we make this a really flawless and smooth user experience. So we're not having to have 15, 20, 30 customer service agents to walk you through it or onboard you. I feel like the onboarding is a waste of time. Your product should be good to not have to have this extensive onboard. And that's what we're trying to do is make it so that literally you pay, you sign up, you fill out your profile, you immediately start creating trips, and that it is the intuitive user experience that you don't have to keep asking questions or trying to find a FAQ video.
So, Jen, I can talk to you all day about everything, but particularly about Coordle. And with the time coming to an end, I'd love to ask you, since your time with Coordle, what do you know now that you wish you'd known sooner, like before you started? So you briefly talked there about Apple and about the costs. Is there any advice you would give to a newly starting founder or startup?
Yeah, first, I don't wish I knew anything because if I would have known, it would change my journey. I would say the only thing I would do is you got to know the app development team. Like you have to figure out what questions to ask if you don't have a app person. You just got to know the questions to ask. That will help save you so much money and validate your idea. Validate because you might have a crappy idea no one wants.
Last thing then, how do we find you? How do we get hold of Coordle?
For my speaking, Jen Fry Talks on everything else, Coordle, Coordle on everything. That's
Amazing.
it. 15 minutes, Mike.
Thank you very much, Jen Fry.